Hey, folks, look at this. I am back with Linda Szabo. She is a hypnotherapist and a change worker right around the corner from me here in beautiful Gloucester, Massachusetts. Back for another show. How you doing, Linda?
I'm doing fantastic. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. It's too bad we can't be side by side like we have been, but now, it's autumn in New England. So,
I know. I mean, in fact, it's a gloomy old day today, but I love these kind of days. I get a lot done.
yeah, I feel the same way, which is cool.
Mhm.
So, okay,
Yeah.
we've talked about this for a while, Linda. We actually polled our viewers and they asked first and foremost for a show on the topic of anxiety.
Mhm.
So that's what we're going to focus on today. So
Okay.
so I think our format's a little different from other shows we do here, where basically you have your dissertation on anxiety, right? We have some questions
Mhm.
from viewers that we'll field as well, and then we'll just sort of have a cool conversation about this in the meantime. So whenever you're ready, Linda, fire away. Have you been busy lately, though, right? Just as an
Oh, yeah.
aside, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't even know. There's not enough hours in the day to get everything done that I want to get done because my addiction is learning.
Mm-hmm.
And so every day I'm learning something new that's taken me down another path. And it's like, oh my goodness, just when you think you've seen it all, here comes something new. I love it, but I have to go follow it through. That is one of the things I want to talk about is curiosity. So actually for viewers, this is the first time you're seeing us talking and seeing me. I don't give you the long history, probably not even history at all, but I just want to tell you that for over 50 years, hate to say that, um, I have been passionate about what makes us tick. That's been my passion. And because I'm an extremely curious person, and very tenacious. I think those are the two things that if you want to cultivate those qualities will get you far in life. Um, Talking about anxiety, that, curiosity is one of the main things that I would invite people to really, really focus on. Because to I'm saying to you, people go to the gym. People now are into their health, what they're eating, all kinds of diets. I've changed my diet to totally whole foods, green based diet.
Mm.
Um,
We should do a show on that sometime. Let me jot that down. That'd be awesome.
yeah. Um, and so what I'm suggesting is we have this amazing mind in this noggin of ours, and most people don't even know how it works. Um, Never mind what to do with it, and what is going on. And so much is going on that it will make a difference in your health, and your emotional life and how you live. So if you have a little bit of sense of what's going on, which is what we're going to talk about today, that will make a huge difference in how you live. It has changed my life. And I'm not a neuroscientist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not any of those things. I'm just a person who has a huge curiosity about what does it mean to be a human being. And so I just want to share some of the things that I've learned throughout all these years.
Mm.
Um, the saying, the devil's in the details. Well, I say heaven is in the distinctions.
Mm.
And that's what I want to talk about today, the distinctions, because it's in the little things that make a big, big difference for people. So this is not going to be a huge scientific talk about the names and the parts of the brains, which I can't even remember. I just know they're there and the simple version of how they work and what it means to you. And I think this distinction is going to make a difference.
Gotcha.
So one of the things is, what is thinking? I'm going to be talking about thinking. I mean, has anybody really sat down, and probably most people haven't, said, what is thinking? I know I have over many, many years. Probably not a thing that most people think about. And yet, try to live your life without thinking. Although paradoxically, thinking is not essential to who you are. It might sound really, really strange,
Mm.
but thinking in and of itself is not essential to who you are. And that might be clearer later. So I want to talk about what thinking is today, how anxiety, which is partly thinking, fits into that, why we even want to care about this, and some tools for what I call self-inquiry. And it's that self-inquiry part. People talk about mindfulness today, meditation, all of these tools and things that people are doing and to improve their life, self-improvement. So there's just many, many avenues to go down, and many people are. And believe me, there are so many great people working on all this stuff. I mean, I have to give credit to the people that I look at, is Jürgen Rasmussen, Howard Cooper, all these guys who are change workers. I'm taking all their webinars. I was just on a weekend webinar, and I'll be doing one next month, and just learn all kinds of stuff that is absolutely astonishing how the brain works. Shinzen Young, Sam Harris, all of these people that maybe possibly your readers, Rupert Spira, have read about. These people are working on what is it? What is our mind? What is thinking? What does it mean to be a human being? The mind, consciousness, and thought of life. A big subject, but I'm going to try to keep it simple. I want to give you the simplified version.
Okay. So Linda, can I ask, so in your day-to-day work, are you dealing with lots of folks on this particular topic, whether it's anxiety or overthinking, which causes stress, or is that like the crux of your workday?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's the crux of it, but there is an aspect of anxiety in everything, isn't it? I mean, if you're responding negatively to something, you have emotional response. Emotions are always there. Have you noticed when you're having a problem? You're on emotional overload, or you're emotionally shut down. It's kind of like, look at the whole system, and everything works together. Anxiety is a particular kind of emotional stress, which I'm going to get into in a minute. And it's a result of your thinking or of external circumstance, so you think, of internal response, so you think. But it all comes down to how you think and how you're thinking. This is the part that people kind of take for granted, I guess. They don't really think about thinking. They don't think about themselves. I suppose, why would you? Until this time, if you're going along in life and everything's great, I just happen to want to know why would you say you want to quit smoking and then you're desperately looking for your matches? I mean, to me, that makes no sense, but we do those kind of things all the time. So what is it in the brain? Is there, who's in there running the show? That's one of the questions I want to know. Who's in there?
Well, and are we differentiating from thought and self-awareness?
Yes, we are. So let me ask you a question. Are you aware?
That's the entire question?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I like to think I am.
Okay.
Now, by that is just like being present in the moment.
Okay. Well, that's a thought. You like to think you are. Are you aware?
Well, perhaps I'm not.
That's a thought.
Yeah. Right. So I'm supposed to be doing this with.
Just take a moment. Just take a moment. It's not going to take. Just take a moment. Just think about that question. Are you aware? How do you know? How would you know you're aware?
Right. Aware of what?
Hmm. Everything. I mean, just aware of this moment. How do you know that you're aware?
See, now that's deep, Linda. That's deep. I can't.
Well, yes.
When we think of when I knew we were going to talk about this subject, when I think of anxiety, I always think of how it's something directly in front of a person. It's what they're confronting at that moment, or they let those things cause anxiety. Whereas I find for myself, I don't feel anxious about things, but there are things that bother me in the long view. Like I know today I've had 3 or 4 surprise phone calls. I had to jostle a couple appointments. I knew I had to prepare for this. But then in the back of my head, like way back, I'm thinking, am I giving enough value to the people I work with? How do I pivot my business properly next year? I'm always trying to think ahead to try to stay, ahead of the
And so
curve
is that,
slightly.
and is that a problem for you? I mean, does that cause anxiety or any kind of, upset or
It's always
disturbance or?
I think my worry is when I'm not in front of someone's face and you're and doing this with them, you don't want to be forgotten about, or you don't want I don't want my clients to think I've forgotten about them just because I'm not in front of their face all the time. And I think a lot of times people need you in front of them
Got it. So you're
to
talking about, you have a concern about the fact that you have a lot of things going on. You're working on these things, but in the back of your mind, you're thinking, geez, am I neglecting? What are they thinking about the fact that am I neglecting them? Am I not? Am I? So
that's constant.
that's an anxiety of sorts. I mean, it's like, well, how does that make you? Do you have a physical reaction to that? I mean, how does your body, when you think that, what's going on with you and your body?
No, to me, it's more like it makes me double down on what I'm doing now to get this stuff out of the way so I can devote some time to thinking long term. It's always time management for me, right? And that the work-life balance and all that too.
Right.
But I'm always trying to think ahead. I also, as a marketer, am thinking, how would I do things differently next year this time? Because I always try to do that 1 year in advance. Like if I'm thinking of the tourism season, well, that stuff I should have in place now and roll out in winter and early spring before summer tourism hits, or the holidays. That stuff I should be thinking of in the summer before, so
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
always
So
thinking,
pause for a
yeah,
sec. Got
yeah.
it. So, wow. So that's a lot of thinking.
Oh yeah. Oh, I have a giant brain,
Now,
Linda.
yeah. So when you're thinking those thoughts, so you're thinking, am I not paying enough attention while you're working on a project? So you start working and these thoughts come in your head. So let me ask you this question. So are you really worried about that in the moment, or is that future that you're thinking about, that event, the clients working with you and the events coming up in the year, um, are they events that are they happening now? I mean, can you leave this moment and go into the future? Can
Yes.
you literally leave this moment and go into the future?
Well, so what I usually think is those thoughts are, first of all, I get these feelings, right? I can feel when I'm not, when, if I think someone else might be feeling as if I'm ignoring them, or if I haven't been around to visit for a while. So that's
Yeah.
my feel, and then, so what I try to do is I do double the work behind the scenes to try to get ahead of it. And so I can have an outcome to share with them. Like, no, look, I've been doing all this in the meantime. We're actually doing better than we were doing before, even though I wasn't here in front of you. So does that make sense at all?
Yeah, it does. I'm just worried, is that a problem for you? Because I mean, you actually get a lot done.
Yeah. And I do feel like, and eventually when I am front facing with someone, they're fine with everything. So
Right,
maybe I
right,
just imagined a lot of it to begin with, but when you're
right. So
in
you're
my
having,
type of business, you have to
right. So
kind of
you're
be front
having,
face.
yeah, you're having some thoughts about what you think is going on. Okay.
Yes.
And so those are just thoughts. You're labeling them. I wonder what everybody else is feeling, okay, about me not contacting them now. Okay. And that's just thoughts labeled. I wonder what they're feeling. Are they feeling neglected? Okay. Now, that's just a thought. Okay. It's a thought labeled, but it's happening in this moment as you're working.
But now, could that thought actually be intuition?
Well, I mean, it could be.
Yeah, I don't know.
It could be. That would be a conversation for a later time.
Yeah.
So if it just comes up and so my intuition comes up in my gut. Okay. I know it's intuition when it's real clear. I know. Here's the difference. So I asked you, are you aware? And how do you know? When I'm having intuition, I know there's no thinking about it. I just simply act or don't act. It's really clear. But when I'm disturbed about something or I'm going back and forth with something, there's a lot of thinking going on and trying to figure out the pros and cons. Am I doing this right? Should I? That's not really coming from my gut. That's my thoughts chewing over this kind of problem that I have.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, there's a distinction to be made of there's thinking going on. Okay. So, you might want to make that distinction when you're doing, is this your gut feeling that it's happening? Like you said, when you check in with the person, no, they weren't thinking that at all. I mean, I certainly wasn't thinking that at all. I get how busy you are because I'm pretty busy myself. So that wasn't going on in my mind.
Mm.
So you were just presupposing, yes, what if? What if they're thinking? Now that what if thinking is a part of anxiety. Let's call it very specific to anxiety. There's a lot of points to anxiety, but that is one. Another one is, are you having a lot of thoughts in succession, speeding up thinking about that? What if, should I call them? Should I get this work done faster? Should I, is there a lot of what ifs happening in those moments?
Interesting.
And they're usually negative. Trying to think of, there's a few more that are just sort of, if I asked you if you were having those kinds of things, that would be definitely anxiety. So it's the anticipation. So that what if is in there with the anticipation that really starts to create this anxiety. It gives it the momentum, and your feelings are really just about the thoughts. They're not really about what's happening because nothing's really happening. You're just imagining this happening in your mind. So this is how it does begin. True. You have an external, you have a project or you have this business going and you want to make it right and they're planning for the future. And this is what if I don't contact them tomorrow? This is anxiety, but it's also thinking also, it's hard to, you can't have experience without having thinking.
Yeah.
So let's back up for a second, just to get this a little clearer.
Sure.
People. Remember I think it was the second time I was on, I read from David Eagleman's, the neuroscientist. I read his description of what it was like for our brain to be working. And I won't go over it again because I can go back and listen to that. But how we experience the world is not from the outside, it's actually from the inside. That's what he was explaining. It's our perception, okay? So everything comes in through our five senses, and then we have a filter. You have your filter, I have mine, that gives us a story about what we think is happening. And this happens very, very quickly. So it's what you think about what's going on is how you're going to behave. Okay, related to what you're thinking about in the future is, you're creating some anxiety in your brain. Okay, so imagine just walking through a garden. This will be my short version of the last talk. And you're seeing beautiful red roses. You're hearing the buzzing of the bees, feeling the wind flowing. You're seeing the movement of the flowers. None of that is happening out there. It's all being filtered through your eyes, your ears, your nose, your mouth. You smell the flowers, you see the beauty of the red. There's no red out there. You feel the wind. There's no feeling of the wind from out there. I know. So before I continue, I just want to say something to your viewers. So everybody's at a different place listening to what I'm talking about. And it's okay if some of this stuff is like, what the heck is she saying? It's okay. And other people will be right there with me, like, yeah, I get you, So wherever you're at is okay. I've always liked to look at the bigger picture, and believe me, I keep looking. It's a blessing and a curse, okay? I like to look at the bigger picture. And this is the bigger picture. This is what I'm saying. If you start to look and cultivate observing, have a curiosity about your own mind, and you start reading what the neuroscientists are telling us and all these researchers and all these millions of books out there, you might be onto something that you hadn't thought of before, because you're not who you think you are. You are who you think you are. So again, this thinking idea keeps coming back, and I'm going to keep coming back to it. What is thinking? Okay. There is no experience going through the garden, seeing the red roses, hearing the buzzing bees. Okay. There is none of that as it is. It's our perception of that. We call it a red rose. We call it a bee buzzing. It's really just, photons, vibrations, electrical frequencies. That's all that's going on in there. It's that computational storm that I talked about. And I said last time, when it's a bad day, it's a computational tsunami. So, it's kind of an interesting thing to contemplate. It's all that's going on in there. It's sights, sounds, sensations. So as you're thinking about when those thoughts come in your brain and you're trying to focus on one thing and have I done this? What if this happens? Just think about it this way. You're just there's some thoughts in there of sounds, pictures, and sensations. That's really what's happening. And then your brain makes a story out of it because it needs to know, what do I do with this? What's this about? That's your brain at work, trying to save you and protect you. Now, actually, anxiety is a form of protection also. So I think that anxiety has got a bum rap. There's a great TED Talk by Kelly McGonigal that says, stress is your friend. And the research shows that if you embrace anxiety and let it just be and run its course, then you will be much better off, much healthier, okay, by allowing the anxiety just to do its job, show up. It's like a false alarm. Just let it run its course, say, oh, there's that thinking about what if again. Remember that old ad said, if you buy this it's a London fog raincoat, I can laugh at the weather. Probably don't remember that, but I love that one because when these things come up, I laugh at them. Say, oh.
Well, Linda, so my question is though,
yes,
but what about for folks who can't just let that flow through them and their anxiety or their stress becomes debilitating?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why I say, okay, do a little, work ahead of time. If you're the kind of person who's prone to anxiety, I've heard there are a small percentage who not really going to get rid of the anxiety. It's an innate thing with them. For some reason, they go down that road. But for most of us, it can be, squelched or calmed down or just dealt with. Now, if you do some things ahead of time, which I was going to give a lot of tips at the end, but I can talk about one thing right now. So usually they say, I'll take a deep breath and think positive thoughts. Okay, well, that's not necessarily the way to go. But breathing is important. So there's a breathing technique that you can breathe twice in, always nasal breathe, okay? Because there's a filter in your nose that filters out, bacteria and germs and all that. You don't want to breathe through your mouth. Much as you can, you want to breathe through your nose. So you double breathe, and then you sigh out a long exhale. Long exhale out. That's how you want to breathe. And do that for, 5 minutes if you can. During when anxiety is hitting you, okay? It's because you want to slow down. Your heart's probably beating fast. Your hands are probably sweating. You're probably, some people think they're having a heart attack. There's a lot of physical things that go on now because you cognitively are starting to have that conversation. What if this? What if that? Okay, you're ramping yourself up. Okay. Now, if you had just come off of a roller coaster, You would be having your heart would be beating. Your palms might be sweating. You might be thinking, oh my God, you'd be having the same symptoms. Now, I don't know how you feel about roller coasters. I'd be having those symptoms.
Yeah, I have it thinking about a roller coaster now.
Okay. Do you like roller coasters?
No, I don't like.
Okay. Well, if somebody did, they'd be having a whole different experience. Woo, that was exhilarating. Yeah, this is great. I'm pumped up. I'm excited.
Yeah, let's
Okay,
get back
did the
in
roller
line.
coaster? Yeah, did the roller coaster change?
Right now.
Is that different? No, we're in the same seat together riding the roller coaster. Okay. So back to the anxiety symptoms. Okay. Beating heart, sweaty palms. I mean, the symptoms can mean a lot of different things depending on the context. So if you know this, first of all, ahead of time, that, oh, this is just the sweaty palms, the beating heart, the racing thoughts. Oh, I'm just doing my anxiety thing.
Yeah, this is what happens. This is just what happens.
This is just my thinking. This is look and see what's in there. You're looking at things. You're imagining pictures. Okay. You're hearing, you might hear your voice saying, oh, what's the matter with you? Just calm down. You might hear your voice. It might be an anxious voice. It might be a very speedy voice. You're having the body sensations. That's what's going on in your brain. You're having a computational tsunami right there in the moment. But that's what's happening. So it's not going to last the rest of your life. Might not even last for 2 minutes. Just be aware, observe. This is what's going on. It's just like I don't get anxiety that much. Very, very rare. I mean, I was brought up with a mother who was a warrior. So, I mean, if you went to the movies, she was afraid you're going to be kidnapped or, the world was a scary place. And I realized one day, I'm like, hey, this came from my mother. Every time you went to do something, she thought of the worst case scenario and was warning you about it. I'm like, geez, So I'm like, I got to lose this idea. It's not a fun way to live, Yeah. But over the years now, I understand how the brain works. It's like, So what I do is I remember the principle. So take the principle of gravity. Okay. When you go outside every day and you think, oh, I hope it's going to work today. Yeah. No, you go outside, you don't even think about it. You walk, but it's working. If it didn't, we'd all be flying up in the air, right? So I just say, oh, just remember the principle that it's just your thoughts that are going on. And all emotions come from a thought. And that's what my emotions are about. Sometimes I say to myself, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how high is this distressed emotion I'm feeling right now? Maybe it's a 7. Oh, okay. So I'm believing now that 70% I'm absorbed in believing that thought. That's all that means. Yeah, that's pretty high, even for me. It's not usually that high for me in anxiety, but I say I want to take it down. Okay, well, just notice, notice your body symptoms. What's going on? You can describe them. Oh, let's see. My heart's beating. Hands are sweaty. Maybe they're tingling. It's a little moving up my arms. If you describe the body symptoms, they will move and change. But if you say, oh, I'm thinking could be having a heart attack, no, you're actually creating more disturbance. You don't want to be saying those kind of things to yourself. You just want to say what is. Oh, sweaty palms. Oh, interesting. Tingling hands. Yeah. Up to my elbows. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. Head pounding a little bit. Yeah, that's all. Describe the symptoms. They will either move or they will start to dissipate. Then you say to yourself again, okay, now, scale of 1 to 10. Oh, it's only about a 4. Oh, what happened? Oh, started to dissipate. So then you can just do it over again. Do your double breathing, and that's it. It's really, not much else to do. I mean, if you get really good at this, so if you practice this a little bit, the good thing is your brain will start to get, hey, you're not reacting in the same way you did before. So, okay, we're going to change that whole pathway and you'll start to notice, no, I'm not really having these reactions anymore as much as I did. That's because you didn't bite. You didn't react. You acted instead and you knew what to do. And so that's the neuroplasticity will start to change the neurons. Now, I say that, people say, when I first heard that, I said, oh, that's kind of interesting. Brains can change, neuroplasticity, but all right, really? So I just learned recently, without getting too much in depth of it. And if you want to really get the details of all of this that I'm talking about, especially the neuroscience part, I've listened to Andrew Huberman from his Andrew Huberman Labs. He has phenomenal research. He's an ophthalmologist and a neuroscientist. He'll give you all the details, more details than you probably want to know. But I like looking at people who have the science behind it, because there's a lot of stuff on the internet that you hear and it's kind of close. It's a generalization, it's there. But as you look into it further, you know what? The distinctions that I find really make a difference. It's not exactly how they said it. So I like to go to Andrew because he upgrades my version of things. And I know that he has the science behind it. So he talks about the nervous system. I think it's number 80, optimizing your brain chemistry. I actually took some notes from that because it's really, really interesting. Okay. So the nervous system, which is all how human beings have a nervous system, okay? It communicates through chemical, okay, transmissions through the synaptic communication, okay? It's made of nerve cells, and they release chemicals to electrically activate nerve cells. Okay, so we are a bioelectrical communications system. Let's add to the computational storm, okay? This is how humans function in the world. With these perceptions, electricity, biology, synchronization of your cells with patterns so that you know how to function in life. I mean, my hand moving, my unconscious mind, believe it or not, is using my hand to tell me where my thinking is. It's really pretty much right here. My hand is telling me something. Just to divert for a second, it's like everything we do, everything you do is proof that your unconscious mind is at work. Okay, your unconscious mind. I mean, 90%, okay, of our functioning is in the automatic nervous system, the automated system it's out of our awareness. We couldn't possibly function if we knew everything that was going on. If we had to beat our heart, circulate our blood every day, blink how many, wake up in the morning. Let's see, how many times do I need to blink my eyes today? I don't know. How many times do I need to have that thought about anxiety? What if my customers neglect me? Yeah. See?
It's all involuntary.
All involuntary. You got it. All just shows up. So doing an exercise the other day, but Gary Weber has this great book out called Happiness Beyond Thought. And I just learned this one, hadn't done this one before, just learned it the other day, and it really adds to it. What he says is just take 5 minutes and write down, or he said, count your thoughts. And I did that. I was astounded, really. I mean, you can't believe the number of thoughts that come up in your brain in a minute. And I think it's 90,000 thoughts per day. And it's about a thought per second. So how would you think you'd have control over those thoughts?
Yeah, it's an impossibility.
It is. So again, part of that observation and curiosity is just to notice that. If you start noticing that today, that might change how you think about something. Might change how you think about your anxiety. You don't have any control over these thinking thoughts. They just appear, and guess what? Not only do they appear, they disappear. And the next thought comes in. The next thought. The next thought. This is how thoughts work. They show up and they disappear. They don't have one thought there continuously. Now, those continuous thoughts you are keeping there because now you're obsessing about them. That's another story. But let's get back to the unconscious. So everything you do, every move you make is your unconscious now. I mean, did you know that you're going to blink your eyes that many times?
God, of course not. No.
Did you know that you were going to rock back and forth like this and have your arms?
No, but I do that enough that I can I can tell you're going to do it again 10 more times before
Yeah.
the show's over. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you know you're going to be laughing like this in my response to what I just said?
No.
No, you didn't. So, I mean, do you think you're in a trance right now?
No.
Yeah. Well, if you don't think so, where did that thought come from?
Right. I don't know. I'm just I'm a counter puncher, Linda. It's you you serve it and I volley. Yeah, I don't know
There
what.
you go. You're doing really well, as a matter of fact.
Oh.
Yeah. So again, bringing it back to that question, are you aware?
Hmm.
Aware of what? Aware of your capacity to have thoughts.
Hmm.
Yeah. Who would be that person who has these thoughts and has this capacity to be aware? That's another podcast. I got off the track. So what was I talking about? So I was talking about, let me backtrack for a second. So I was talking about David Eagleman. You can read his book, The Brain, and he'll, explain how all the neuroscience to this, how your brain does work.
And then Gary Weber.
Gary Weber. Yep. It's kind of shocking when you first get the knowledge of all this stuff, because like, really? Wow. I mean, I kind of thought I was me, human being, having me and my personality. And I didn't know I was just, chemicals and bioelectrical systems and I don't know, photons and what? I just find this to be astounding, but this is how it works. And we were talking about the chemicals. So let me give you the anatomy of thinking. So thinking, it's like a loop. There's a stimulus, a thought, you have a reaction, you have an emotion, it releases hormones, and then you have a behavior. And that goes around and around and around. And that's very powerful, because how you're thinking and what you're thinking about, so if you're in the middle of anxiety, you're releasing hormones. Then I'll give you the 4 basic ones that he was talking about: dopamine, epinephrine, serotonin, and acetylcholine. And all of these chemicals do different things. Very, very powerful. And this whole book's written about dopamine, the dopamine nation, I think it's called. And there are ways to influence releasing these chemicals. Also, if you want to get all that, you can, go to Andrew Huberman's podcast and listen to that. So again, this is very powerful stuff. So every time you're having a thought, every time these synapses are connecting, you're releasing these chemicals. Trillions, okay, of these cells and synapses, okay, are controlling the fact that you can love, that you can be happy, that you can be sad, and that you can remember. They're controlling all brain functions. So this is why I say you might want to kind of get a peek under the hood here to see what's going on, because it will affect your health and your emotional life, and whether or not you're going to be happy or whether or not you're going to suffer through life. Believe me, I've already done the suffering part. So this half of my life, extremely much more fun and more happiness. And it's because I've looked into all these things and I've used them and tried them, and they're unbelievably fantastic.
Well, was it difficult, Linda, putting this into practice over time?
Not really. I mean, I've tried to give you, I'll have at the end, I have a lot of simpler things, but it's just like anything else. Is it difficult to get to the gym?
Right.
Yeah, in some moments, absolutely. Okay, I think we talked about last time, because I said, remember, you're talking about when that stress hits or that anxiety or something is keeping you from going. If you look and see what's going on in your mind, you'll notice, I'm thinking about, I got to get up, I got to get the tennis shoes, I got to put the socks on, get the right clothing, and I got to, need to drink something before I go, drive down to the gym, you start weighing yourself down with all these details. But like I said to you, if you had said, got a notice, just won the lottery, you'd be throwing the darn clothes on and you'll be out the door before, your wife could say, hey, where you going? So again, it's all about your thinking. Is it difficult to go to the gym on those days when you're talking yourself out of it? Yeah. But if you know that, oh, this is just those darn thought processes again. What do I want to do? That's what I always say to myself. The other thing I just noticed is I have these things that go on in my mind every moment. I'll get up from a chair and it says, yeah, sit longer. I want to start working on my projects. I'll leave it for later. I have noticed the last few years, I have this continual stream of a backlash of saying, no, don't do it. You want to go ahead? No, go back. If I listened to that, I wouldn't get one thing done in my life. But I just know, oh, there's that thought again. Keep going because I'm not listening. You have to know thoughts come up every second and they leave. That is the basic principle. So the anxiety loop is pretty much the same thing. You're having negative thoughts come up, okay, whether you're creating them inside or whether you're thinking about that talk you're going to have next week. It's all just a thought labeled a talk next week happening in this moment. That's the key. It's just a thought labeled what if, and it's happening in this moment. And now your body is responding as if it's happening now. It's not happening now. It's just the thought labeled that talk next week is happening now. When you know that to be true, when you know it's just the thought believed, your body will not react. Your body won't respond to that. And that's kind of the key to why I keep harping on this idea of your thinking. Is your thinking, your mind-body connection is connected. So if you start thinking these thoughts and you start imagining, your body is going to be responding with the sweaty palms and the beating heart. But if you say to yourself, oh, let's see, what's that principle of thinking? It's just a thought labeled talk next week. I'm going to do what I have to do, prepare. And it's just a thought labeled the talk next week. It's not happening now. I'm not that person who's making that mistake that you're imagining all these negative things are going to happen. I'm just making this up. That's what we do. We just make things up, because we need our anxiety to be there. Anxiety, actually, believe it or not, it's the alarm system. I say the false alarm system, because in the old days, we really, really needed to keep us out of danger because we were living outside and we had animals we had to watch for and all that. Now it's the stress of life. It's the texting, the emails, the constant bombardment. We're always busy. We're constantly bombarded with things. Now our brain is on overload now with all of these chemicals that I talked about that are going on. They're just now continually being bombarded into our system. There's no break. And so if ahead of time you meditate or you do some breathing, you're getting your body regulated to taking time out. It needs that break from thinking so that you're not dispensing all of these chemicals all of the time. So cognitively, if you understand how this works, then you have a better shot at not being so reactive. And when it does happen, because you're human and you are going to get caught, even I get caught every once in a while, it doesn't last long. I don't have depression anymore like I used to. I don't have anxiety like I used to, because when it comes up, I go, oh, is that anxiety thought? No. Is that depression trying to grab me? No. What's going on? No, I don't get hooked. Just lasts for, a few minutes and then it dissipates because you know how it works. And that's a good place to be in, I think. Anyway, so let me ask you this question. So what are you hearing so far?
Well, It's as if you can control the uncontrollable and make it work for you, right? So you're receiving messaging, you're reacting to things, but you can actually control what those reactions are, or somehow temper things if need be, or you become your own conscious filter to these things as they appear or approach you. That's what I get out of this.
Mhm. So when you're thinking about, having those thoughts of your clients and how are they feeling, and what are you thinking about that now?
Well, so the first thing that pops in my mind is the easy remedy would be, well, just reach out, just reach out quickly, get out of the way, calm those feelings down, just feel more certain about things, and just have those. Um, it's just putting an ice cube in a steaming cup of tea. You can cool things down yourself that easily.
Awesome. I like that metaphor. That's fantastic. Yeah. And the other thing is just to know that your feelings about that are coming from the thoughts about that,
Mm-hmm.
the thoughts of what your customers are thinking, not from the fact that your customers are out there and you may be neglecting them. You don't even know if that's the case.
Right.
So your emotions are coming from your thinking. All emotions come from thinking. They don't come, so they come from within, gone through your filter, or perhaps I'm neglecting. They don't come from out there. So that's another key principle to keep in mind. Again, David Eagleman, we perceive life from the inside, how it occurs to us. How it occurs to us. And that reminds me of another point I wanted to make is about listening. So you might want to check in, especially if you have anxiety with a lot of issues in relationships and with people. You might want to check in with people and say, what did you hear? How are you hearing this? Like I just asked you. This is a relatively new thing that I've learned, because listening is not this passive role that you play. You listen because you want to listen with nothing on your mind. Because if you don't, you're listening with comparison mind. You're comparing what you know with what I'm saying. It isn't correct, or, well, I had a really different version. There's too much thinking going on while you're listening to the other person. You're really going to miss their intention or the point they're trying to make. Now, again, the researchers have shown that no two people think alike in the moment and perceive something at this 100% exact time, not even a color. I think they used, again, I got this from Andrew Huberman's lab. They had people look at the color yellow. None of them had the same yellow. Now they got close so that you could have a conversation, you know what the person's talking about somewhat. And this is where a lot of miscommunication comes in between people, husband and wives, friends, whatever. You say one thing, you respond, but that's not what the person meant. Now you're off talking about something that's not really what they meant to say. So now they're correcting that. And then, but if you say, well, how did you hear that? If it's not landing right, you might want to ask them, oh, what did you hear? And you'll be amazed at what they heard, because it wasn't really what you said or intended. This goes on a lot. So even in listening to something like this, you're going to hear what I'm saying, how you're going to hear it. I have no control over that. I do make a note to try to explain things in a way that I hope that people can get something from it. That's one of the things that I'm always looking for. How do I better explain this stuff so that people can actually use it today and take something useful? So to think about just the fact of how you listen and be responsible for what you heard the person say. And you can do that by simply getting into the habit of asking them, what did you think I said? So I'll probably be asking you that a few more times.
Yeah.
Makes a huge difference. Let's see. So I think I've covered all that fun stuff.
Well, I mean, so what's cool about these conversations, Lynn, is I like how we can actually narrow these down to topics And obviously, we found out the last time we did a show together, there were certain topics that absolutely resonated with folks, and it was anxiety and procrastination, which we'll do a show on soon. So it's nice to be able to have these deep dives and understand the thinking or the non-thinking that goes on amongst all this too. So we actually do have questions from viewers if you have time.
Yeah, let's do it. Oh, I got all kinds of time today.
Okay, beautiful. All right,
yes.
So the first question comes from Erica Delauder, and she asks, Linda, what is the physical experience within when you're having severe anxiety? So help me better understand that question, Linda.
Okay, so that's what I was talking about. You believe your what if thinking, okay? And now it appears that it's real to you in this moment. It's happening now. And that's the thought illusion of what our mind does. So now it's going to respond as if there's, a tiger in the room. I mean, there's going to be some physical responses. That's what the brain is supposed to do. Okay, it does physiologically certain things to prepare you to fight, flight, freeze, or mate. That's its job. Okay, so now if you think danger is happening, so danger is not really happening when you're in anxiety or stressed out. Your body responds to a perceived threat and experience. There's no tiger in the room. There's no talk happening now. You're thinking about it, okay? And in believing that it's happening now, your body's responding. Your heart is going to beat. However it shows up in your body. Your hands are going to sweat. You may be, getting hot all over. You might be getting brain fog. I know sometimes my brain used to just go blank. Hasn't done that for a while, but it still does. But now when it does, I know what's happening. I think I talked about the confusion that comes up. So your body has, physical manifestations because you believe in that moment that, you're in danger. Well, you're not really. I mean, if you've ever missed a car accident, I use this example, and you're right there and you see an accident and you just, boom, you avoid it. You went to the left, you went around, you'd speed it up, then slow down, did what you had to do. You didn't consciously figure all that out because you would have been in the midst of you would have been crashing too. Your unconscious mind just took over and it calculated how fast you were supposed to go, where you were supposed to turn, what you were supposed to do, all automatically. It's really good at keeping you out of danger. That's its job. So your alarm system was right on there working fine. Okay. It's just now this kind of false alarm where it perceives a threat. Now a perceived threat could be, what if I make a mistake at this talk? What if my customers are thinking I'm a bad person, I'm neglecting them? It's a perceived threat to your being. And that's what you have a response to. That's how the body works. It's, it comes in through all your senses. It makes up a story about it, okay? Because we have an ability to create stories. And, that's one of the things that we have that all animals don't have. It's one of our gifts, as being a human being. But unfortunately, it can work for us or against us. But if you know that, then you can double check and say, okay, what's really going on? You can't have an experience without thinking. It's coming through the filtered perception senses. It's the only way it works. That's the way it works. Does that answer the question?
It does. Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much. And appreciate the question, Erica. Thanks for that. Linda, our next question comes from Maxine Rosola, who asks, how can you help yourself with anxiety through self-hypnosis?
So there's many different ways of doing self-hypnosis. I like to try all different ones. Anything that you do ahead of time, like I talked about earlier. Self-hypnosis is one of those ways. Self-hypnosis is very simple because hypnosis is just a focused attention. I'll give you a quick way to do it. So you can just, you say what your intention is. I just want to have a few minutes of calm. Or I would like to be very articulate today in the meeting that I have this afternoon. Whatever your issue is, whatever you want to, put in your brain, okay? Your unconscious mind is always there with you. It's always paying attention. It's always thinking. And this priming of your unconscious mind is very powerful. In fact, hypnotists do it a lot when you come in to see, when clients come to see them. They talk about, we're going to learn today. We're going to focus on making a change. They prime the pump, so to speak, and get your unconscious mind focused on what it is we're going to do today. So you can just say, my intention is to just remain very, very calm, no matter what is thrown my way today, say, for example. And then what I do is I can just, so if you keep your head straight ahead, and you roll your eyes and look up as if you're looking through your forehead. I just close my eyes, really, 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 really micro mini movements. And I close my eyes, take a nice deep breath. And then you can actually open your eyes even slower. I never make it all the way up. And I just close my eyes, because that act of just opening and closing your eyes very slowly kind of tells your brain, I think we're going into relaxation mode here. Yeah. And then it helps you to get there. And you're always taking some nice deep breaths. You can do a double breathing through your nose. Just sigh it out. Just sigh it out. Believe it or not, the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system, again, inbuilt into the body system. When you breathe in, that triggers the sympathetic nervous system to say, hey, a little stress response here, something's happening. So I know for myself, if somebody tells me bad news, I always go, that's the sympathetic nervous system getting you enough oxygen, because in a moment you might have to run. So it's already working for you. Now, the opposite of that is the parasympathetic. So when you exhale long and slow, that's triggering your brain to say, bing, alarm off, relax, go into relaxation mode. Your brain knows all about what you're doing here. Okay, it's amazing, really. So now you just breathe for a few minutes and just notice, because just the act of closing your eyes, you're shutting out the distractions from the outside world. Actually, your optic nerve is still working. You're actually looking at the inside of your eyelids. I'm looking at movement of light. It's dark. It's not totally black. I like to just watch that for a few minutes as I'm breathing. And you can do many things at this point, or you can just say, focus and see yourself being calm. Maybe picture yourself where you want to be. You can do a variety of things. You can say to yourself, what would be the color in this space that would be a healing color for me? Colors are huge to the unconscious. Unconscious loves colors. So mine is usually violet. So just picture that violet light, and have that violet light breathe all the way down through your whole body, all the way. You can just say all the way. And let it go. And you can repeat that. You can just do it many times during the day. I'm starting to feel relaxed myself. How about you?
I thought I was going to finish the show on my own for a second when you closed your eyes.
It really, really works. Slow yourself down. That's another thing. Those thoughts are very speeded up. If you change your thoughts, slow them down, okay, that's going to be a huge difference. So, for example, let's try a little experiment with you right now, if you'd like to participate.
Let's go.
Okay. So I want you to say to yourself, oh, I hope my clients aren't thinking I'm neglecting them. Now, I want you to take a deep breath. This won't take that long. Take a deep breath, close your eyes, and say that sentence to you very, very slowly. When you're done, you can open your eyes. And now I want you to take a nice deep breath. Close your eyes again. And I want you to see that sentence as if it's written on a billboard. And then put space in between each word of that sentence. Every word, put big space. When you've done that, let me know.
All right.
Okay. You can open your eyes. Take a nice deep breath again. Now, what I want you to do, and I'll give you an example of what I want you to do. I want you to say to yourself, what was the sentence again? I don't have to worry, or I'm worrying about my customers' negative thinking.
Yeah, I hope my clients aren't.
I hope my clients aren't. Okay. So you want to put about 5 to 6 seconds between each word. You want to say to yourself, so you want to say, I hope. Really put that time in between each word. Say that to yourself. And when you're done, you can open your eyes.
All right.
Yeah. So when you think about that sentence now and you think about your customers, is there something that feels different from when we talked about it before?
It's more of a reassurance that, because I mean, it's not, I've always had that thought. And then it's always been soothed, as somebody when I actually do go and talk to people. Like talking to you earlier today, it's like, Cora, like, I know how busy you are. I know how much work you're doing. Like, I understand that already. I don't need you to come and tell me every time we have a conversation, so it's like
So when you think about this,
it's helpful to me to actually put it in practice. Just keep putting that into practice.
okay. So answer the question that I'm going to ask you now is, when you think about that sentence, I hope my clients don't feel neglected. How does that resonate with you now? Not the story about what you just told me. I got the story.
How does it resonate with me now? It's why bring self-doubt upon yourself when it's unnecessary?
Okay, so let's do one more thing. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you say that resonates with you? 10 being I still have that.
Well, probably pretty high, only because I'm about to go through like major shifts and changes with the business.
Got it.
So that's why.
Okay.
And I'm at a point like I can't
so
like
pause
announce
for a
anything
second.
yet. Right.
Okay, pause for a second. So is that thought, is that thinking, is that a thought labeled, I'm about to make some big changes? Is that thoughts labeled happening in the moment? Just a thought labeled, I'm going to make some changes?
Yeah, that's the feeling way back in my head. Like, I know this is happening. I can't share it with folks yet. And during that quiet period, I don't want to lose folks. Because I think in the end, this is a benefit to everybody, but.
Right. So it's a different question then. Yeah, that would be, so, that would take a few more minutes to get into it, which we probably won't take the time now, but that's the idea. So let's just try on the other question, just do one more thing. So I want you to say out loud the sentence we just talked about. Instead of just doing it inside, I want you to say it out loud. And then I will count, I want you to count 8 seconds before each word. Literally count and just say, I hope because it's all the same thing. It's all the same idea. Right. Do that out loud, counting 8 seconds between each word.
So it's I.
While you're looking at me.
I. hope, my clients don't feel neglected.
Awesome. Okay. Now, when you think about that sentence now, how does that sentence feel?
It feels as though I know the answer now.
Okay. You know the answer now. So it feels better?
Yes, for sure.
Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10?
I feel really good about that now.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, it's just the tempo, the speed of that voice that's going on in your head makes a huge difference, as you just were an example of. So, you can just slow down those voices, because why does this work? Because how the stuff comes in through your senses is coded in a certain way. Your brain does an incredible job of taking what you see cognitively, okay, and translating it into giving it a meaning. What you hear, we have language. We've learned how to speak to each other. We have, we hear a bird singing. A bird is just making a noise. We're calling it a bird singing. Okay. And this is all going on. I mean, faster than the speed of light. So if you change the way you normally, or that loop has been coming for you very fast, what if this happens? What if that happens? And you change the speed of the sound perception, that will change how your brain makes meaning out of it. They have discovered the coding of, if you change any one of these submodalities, they call it, that's what NLP works with a lot. Change how that happens, it will change your experience of the issue. And I just think that alone is phenomenal. And you do it with sight, with hearing, with feeling, with all of your senses. And
Cool.
That's a way to have an influence over what's going on in your own brain.
Very nice.
Awesome.
Yeah. Jeez.
So what's your next question?
So we have another one. Thank you, Maxine, for that last question. This is from Wildflower Wind, who asks, Linda, I'm wondering if anxiety has become an epidemic.
People have written about anxiety as if this anxiety addiction, they call it. And yeah, I mean, well, it was the number one topic that, people wanted to hear about. It's because they think it's normal now. There's so much going on in the world and in this fast-paced life, and especially now with what's going on in the world with all of this, let me call it insanity. I think it's insanity, but again, that's my perception. Of course, people have a lot of fear. They have a lot of worry. They're worried about the future. What's going to happen? There's so many, all of our aspects of every aspect of life has been affected, beginning with this whole pandemic. Not that all this stuff wasn't happening before. I just don't think people were aware as much as of what's going on. So yeah, we just think this is normal to live in this worry, fearful world. It's not normal. It's not normal. You don't have to live there. I don't live there. I don't watch, I'm not glued to the TV set all day long watching all this insanity, because I mean, it all changes every day. There's a whole new, a whole new thing happening, which you could say, what the heck is that? So I don't even go there. I really don't. Not that I bury my head in the sand. Believe me, I have enough people keep me in tune with what's going on and take care of things you need to take care of. But again, it's your outside perceptions of what's going on, okay, comes in, and then you make a story about it. Some people, if you're an activist, you think, wow, this is exciting. Let me go and help in this realm, in the political realm, or maybe in health, or, to another country. I mean, everybody's going to perceive what's going on in a different way. and have a different role to play. But yeah, because of the nature of stress and because of technology, because of these phones, everything's speeded up. We are bombarded with information, bombarded. I mean, just texting alone and just communicating with people on a daily basis is overload. That's why I say it's good to do some of these things ahead of time, before the anxiety kicks in, the meditation, the just do self-hypnosis, just sitting quiet, looking out to the horizon. In fact, you have to live on the ocean so I can actually see where the ocean ends. And again, on Andrew Huberman talks about, he goes out in the morning, every morning, and gets sunlight, direct sunlight, before 12 noon. And that kicks off your energy level, your dopamine circuitry to give you optimal health and management during the day. So if you could get outside every morning. Also, he says, we're looking at our phones, especially with little children. You might want to think about this. The very fact that it's close, you have to give your eyes a break. And also, it's not just the fact that you're looking at the phone. It's the fact that you're looking at something close up. You need to take a break, okay? If you're looking at your computer all the time or your phone, and look out to the horizon. Because when you expand out your vision, it affects you cognitively. Where your vision goes, your thinking follows, which is, he has a whole, a lot of episodes on this kind of thing. Vision is just not for discerning a shape or a size or a distance. No, it really has to do with your thinking. So, yeah, and one of the exercises I was going to talk about at the end, but I'll talk about it now, is I used to do this before I listened to Andrew Huberman, and then he just affirmed that it was for different reasons, that it was really good, but it's called peripheral focus. So if you have a lot of these thoughts going on, you might just pick a spot, maybe 15 feet away in your room, and focus your attention on that spot. Do not focus on anything else, but soften your gaze. So you're looking at a spot, soften your gaze so that you can see things on all sides of you, up and down and all around. And just soften your gaze and just notice what you're seeing. And just do that for a few minutes. And then actually, if you look out to the horizon, even farther away, just find a spot and look out to the horizon. And again, it just visually, cognitively helps the inner system, helps your brain get in tune with expansion and contraction, which is another show about how your brain works. Mm-hmm. So I used to use it with just hypnosis. If people were very, very, had a lot of thoughts going on and they couldn't stop them, that's a good exercise to just quiet the mind. Quiet the mind and just let those thoughts go. Also, he uses it he says, if you want to do a project, before you're going to work on your project, use it to help you focus, to get your focused brain online. So I use that now. Before I do things, I'll just do that peripheral vision. So I didn't know it had that effect also. So a lot of these things have a lot more effects than just one thing. So that's that.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for the
Any
question.
more questions?
Yeah, well, fun. We have one more question. This comes from Damon. And he asked, Linda, if you're on anti-anxiety medication, how do you know when you can stop taking it or reduce the dosage?
Well, I cannot give any kind of medical advice or even, go there. But I will say from my own experience, if I was, okay, I would always find out if that is your intention to get off anti-anxiety medication, which I personally would prefer no medication in that realm at all, okay, to doing meditation, self-hypnosis, learning about what anxiety is. Sometimes just in the learning and hearing about how anxiety works can really, really lessen your participating and creating anxiety. Because after all we've talked about today, one must realize that you are creating this yourself. This is a self-created experience of allowing these thoughts to come in, and you're trying to, stop them or whatever it is you try to do, or you're believing them. Okay, we'll get back to that in a minute. But yeah, so I would talk to your doctor about your particular medication. If it was me, I would say, how can I wean off of this? And I would wean off of it. And then I would learn about anxiety, and I would do some of these exercises. That's what I would do for that.
Yeah. Great stuff. Okay. Well, we appreciate all the questions, folks. We have Linda's contact information here too, if you want to learn more. And her website, of course, is brushwithlifehypnosis.com.
Mm-hmm.
So you can find out more about all of her services there as well. And we'll tell you when the next show is. Leave comments here, or you can email me at hello@bridgecapeann.com if you have suggestions for other topics you would like Linda to discuss. And Linda, it's been a pleasure as always. I'm looking forward to the next show. We'll let you know what folks come up with. I mean, we know that they want to do the procrastination show. We know that, but we'll see what other topics they have for us as well.
I just wanted to say that I can put a list together of a lot of these things that you can do. If anybody wants to, email me, lindasabo345@gmail.com. I can put a list together of all different things, but different things resonate with different people. They want to do things, to help them ahead of time or during when they're having anxiety. Are we almost done? Or I have one more thing I could throw in there that would be important to you.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. I wanted to say the one thing that people do is they think to themselves, oh, I got to get rid of these anxious thoughts. Okay, good luck with that. You can't just say, I don't want to have these thoughts. Okay. If I said to you, Corey, I don't want you to think about pink striped zebras. No matter what you do now in the next 30 seconds, do not think about pink striped zebras. Okay. What's coming to mind?
There it is. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You can't not think about these things. Mm-hmm. Okay. You can just be willing to just allow them to be there. And like I said, they will dissipate. But if you rail against them and think, oh, I'm not supposed to even be anxious, well, who said? I mean, you're a human being. Yeah, anxiety is a part of our system, a fantastic part of our system. It actually even prevents disease. Okay. So it does a lot of great things for us. So don't say, yeah, no, I'm not supposed to have these thoughts. No, you can't say that, because that's called resistance. And what you resist will persist. So don't be making that mistake. Oh, I'm not supposed to be having these thoughts. Oh, yeah, they came up, like I said earlier. You don't have any choice. They come up. Just let them go through. Let them go through. So, yeah, I mean, I could go on and on, but if you want to wrap up, I'm good with that.
Well, we can always, right? I mean, with this topic, we can always follow up as well.
Yeah, we can follow up if they have a lot of questions, about the things that I've said already and want to ask. We can, definitely have a follow-up show like that. That would be awesome.
Very cool. All right, folks. Thanks for your time, Linda. Thank you, as always, for another great show and informative as well. And we will see you next time on Bridge Cape Ann. Bye for now.
Sounds good. Thank you. Bye, everybody.